Hello crafty friends, my name's Alicia, but you can call me Crafty Al. And in today's video, I'm going to be sharing the process of how I made my first set of cards using the March 2025 SheetLoad of Cards printable. I hope you'll stick around to see how they were made and get a few tips along the way. Welcome, or perhaps welcome back to my channel. I am so glad that you're here. Yesterday, I stopped by to share the debut of the March 2025 SheetLoad of Cards. If you haven't yet watched that video and you want to get the free download, make sure to check out the debut video linked in that description box below. Today, I'm going to share the process of how I made my first set, and my creative team is going to be sharing their videos as well and their first sets using the new printable. To see what everyone has made, in the description box below is a link to a playlist. I will also have that same playlist as an end card at the end of this video. While the playlist is the easiest to view the videos because it's just a one-stop shop for all of them, if you want to hop along through the channel link list, you can also find that below. I know that everybody would love for you to stop by, see what they created, and leave them some love. As I get into the process, I will tell you about the products and tools I'm using, but as always, if I ever leave you with any questions, feel free to leave those down in that comment section and I'll get back to you just as soon as I can. Let's get crafty! To get started, I'm going to be cutting my 4 pieces of pattern paper per the cutting guide. Now when you select your 4 pieces, they can be 2 of the same pairs or 2 different. That is up to you. For me, I did go with 2 pairs that were identical. If your pattern paper has a direction, make sure to keep that in mind before you make the first cut. And on this first sheet, I'm going to cut 3 columns that are 2 inches wide. Now, because this does take up the entire 6 inches, make sure to cut it right at 2 inches or a little bit under. Don't do what I call generous cutting and make it a tad over 2, or you'll end up with one column that's a little too skinny. Once those are cut down, you're going to take 2 of those columns and cut them to 5 inches tall. Now there is a small little bit left over at the end, and you can use this for your cards later. That 3rd column, we're going to cut it right in half at 3 inches tall, and here's a look at the 4 pieces you'll get from one sheet. Now on the sketch, it does show that bottom piece as one strip, and if you would rather have that for your scraps to maybe decorate the inside of your cards, I'm going to show you on this second piece how to do it. Instead of cutting 3 2-inch columns, the first thing you're going to do is cut a single 2-inch column and set that to the side. Then the piece that's left over, you'll cut that to 5 inches tall. And here you'll see you have that wider strip that is 4 inches. Now you can cut the 4-inch wide section into the 2 pieces that are 2 by 5, and then you're still going to bring in that 3rd column and cut it in half at 3 inches tall. Now I know that was a lot of measurements and numbers to remember, but don't forget, you don't have to remember any of these or write them down. Check out that debut video, which is linked down in the description box below, to get your free printable. Once those pattern papers were cut, I moved on to CS1, and this is 2 sheets of 8.5 by 11 that you cut each one into the 8 pieces that are shown. For my cardstock, I chose Sweet Corn from Tailored Expressions because I thought it went super well with some of those yellow butterflies. To cut these down, I'm going to start by cutting 4 columns that are 2 1/4 inches wide and then leaving it at the 8.5 inches tall. Now I am using the measurement to the left of my cut line, and you'll see here at the end you do have a scrap left over, and you could use that for your sentiment or for die cuts, so I did set mine to the side. Once the columns are cut, you're going to bring those strips back in, and now you're going to cut this into 2 pieces. You can either cut 5 1/4 from the top or 3 1/4 inches from the bottom. It does take up that whole section, so again, make sure not to do generous cuts. While I work on cutting the CS1 pieces, I did want to take a minute to recognize some special channel members. In the month of February, I had some of them celebrate 1 year of channel membership. so scrolling up on screen are their names. Thank you so very much for your continued support. You help to keep me creating here on YouTube and the past 2 years of SheetLoad of Cards free for all subscribers. If you're not yet a member and would like to find out more about the perks of channel membership, you can click on the join button below this video or the link in the description box below. Next up for cutting might be the scrap of cardstock for CS2, which is going to be for the sentiments. Now I do give suggested dimensions here. You can definitely make it bigger, smaller, totally change it for your needs. And that is kind of what I will be doing, so right now I'm not going to cut these sentiment pieces. But I did want to talk about the card bases. For these you will need 4 sheets of cardstock that you cut in half and fold in half. Now my sketch does call for a top fold card, but you could definitely do a side fold or book fold card if you would like. I just grabbed some white ones I already had in my stash. Now all of the pieces are cut, so we can start assembly. For this, I'm going to put the pattern papers on their sweet corn mats. I am just using ATG to keep everything nice and flat for now, and when I go to put my pattern paper on the cardstock, I do my best to get a nice even border. While I work on matting the rest of those pattern papers, I wanted to ask you a question. Because this does originally use 6x6 paper, it would be super easy for me to come back later in the month and show you using 12x12, which is going to yield you 16 cards. Now it will require more cardstock, but let me know down in that comment section below if you would like to see how you could make those adjustments and build up that card stash even more. The next step is to get those pattern papers put onto card bases, and for this you'll grab one of each pattern. Now this is a place where you can make these cards your own. You can move the smaller piece up or down, you can rotate the sketch, you can flip and have the tall strip over on the right. For my card today, I am just going to stick to the sketch, and once again I'm using ATG to keep everything nice and flat so far. I'm going to put the matted pattern paper A over on the left side, trying to get a nice even border on those outer edges. Now I'm going to place that smaller piece over on the right. Some of it does overlap the butterfly piece, and I don't usually do this, but I know that lots of you do. Because this piece wouldn't be level because of those 2 layers on the left, I'm going to bring in some scrappy strips that I just have hanging out here in my stash from other projects. For this first one, I took kind of a longer strip and folded it in half and adhered it to the back of the right side. Now everything is nice and level all the way across. Let me know down in that comment section below if you do this leveling technique. When I place that second piece, I try to get the same border on the right as I have on the outer edges of the taller strip. I continued putting the card fronts together, and on this second one, instead of using that longer strip that I folded in half, I took 2 smaller scraps and adhered those together before placing them on the back of the matted pattern paper piece B. Once I had those first 2 examples done, I did more of an assembly line process for the rest of the card fronts. I would put all of the long skinny strips on, then I adhered all of my little leveling scraps together, placed those onto the back of the smaller matted pieces, and then finally got those added to the card fronts. And here's a look at the 8 card bases or card fronts all finished. Now it's time to get the sentiment added, and like I suggest in the alternative sections, definitely make this fit for the sentiments you want to use. For my cards, I'll be using the Simple Strips Thanks stamp from Tailored Expressions. Try to say that 3 times fast. And the coordinating die. This will allow me to get tons of sentiments with just one single stamp. I am using Tailored Expressions Oreo ink for my sentiments today and just stamping onto a scrap of white cardstock. To make this easy to stamp multiple times so I get a nice solid black, I did use the MISTI, and you'll want to make sure if you have stamps like this that you ink up those black squares because those are alignment for die cutting later. Let me know down in that comment section if you have any either simple strip stamps like this from Tailored Expressions or another company. I use that coordinating die to cut these out, and you'll see here now I have individual sentiments. Now because I only need 8, I did go ahead and pick those out, and I will just save the rest of these for projects later. Although I have kept my cards pretty flat so far, as I go to decorate them, I want to add some dimension. So for the sentiments, I brought in my big blue roll of foam tape in the 1/4 inch width, and if you're interested in this, I will have it linked in the description box below, and I added a strip to the back of each of the sentiments. Now as long as you burnish it after you get that tape on there, this release paper pulls off very easily later. This is going to be another time where you can adjust the layout to make these your own or fit your sentiments or decoration. So you can move the sentiment up, down, left, right. Again, I did stick pretty much like what the sketch shows. I put it a little bit up from the bottom of the smaller pattern paper and centered it across the card. Once I had the sentiments on, I could have called these cards finished, but just like on the sketch, it does suggest some other decoration. For mine, I decided to go with the butterfly theme since one of the pattern papers had those, and I pulled out this old set from Spellbinders, and to die cut the delicate or the detailed butterfly from, I am using Tailored Expressions Gumdrop, which is their newest color. I thought that went really well with some of those green butterflies on the pattern paper. Now here's a look at one of the ones I put together. You'll see I put a little vellum shadow behind it, and for the little dots in the middle I used diamond dots, and these are number 5001. They're white with just a little bit of iridescence. When I go to add the butterfly to the card front, I do put the adhesive behind the main body, trying to hide it since I did use vellum for the shadow. Once that dried, I'm going to come in and lift up the wings from either side to give a little extra dimension. And here are some close-up looks at the finished cards. I hope you enjoyed seeing how I put together these 8 cards using the March 2025 sheet load. If you did, as always, a thumbs up is appreciated. Now don't forget to see what the creative team made this month by using the playlist link here in a minute as an end card or the link in the description box below. Until my next video, I hope you're all having a crafty day. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch all the way to the end of the video. I hope now you'll consider clicking on one of the videos or playlists I have linked above. And if you are interested in any of the products or tools I used in today's video, I do have some links in the description box below.